All right, guys, welcome back to the Hardman Podcast. A little bit different today. No cold open. We are going to do our quarter one AMA. So we've gotten a ton of questions. Now, let's be completely honest here. We didn't know how to check the text message feature on Buzzsprout. So all of the send us text things, those had been piling up a little bit and we didn't know how to access them. But luckily
we found it.
Ethan figured it out.
We're responding to them. Thank you for sending those in.
So a bunch of the questions we're going to answer today have come from that. We have a handful from the Patreon as well. Thank you to our patrons. You guys make this show possible. If you aren't there, we don't get to do this. So like I said, you guys make the show possible and we really, really appreciate the support. If you haven't checked it out yet, go check out The Brutal American over on Patreon. We're going to be doing a whole lot more content on that this year. Should be a lot of fun. We've already got some new stuff up on there just since January.
Yeah, video stuff, right? I know a lot of people listen on audio podcasts, but there's the videos on Patreon, which are cool.
Yeah,
Tate, you do a really good job editing those.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We I guess didn't do a great job of explaining in the previous episode when we did the red dot comparison that we were actually doing a video of that at the range, which is on me. But if you want to go check out the actual video reviews and us shooting the red dots and the different things that we discussed in the last main episode, that video is about 25 minutes long and it's in the Patreon. So definitely go check that out. Apologize for not explaining that more clearly last time, but it is there if you want to go see it.
Yeah, the video turned out really good. I had a couple follow-up questions. One, I don't think we addressed what was the kind of drill that we were shooting to test these out. Mm-hmm. And so we had two where we had a target at 25 yards and we have a steel target at 100.
Yep.
And so we were kind of doing that close far test of shooting something up close, shooting something far away, and seeing how the different optics performed on that. So that was one question I had. The other one was, we were talking about rifle optics, rifle red dots for the most part, but we did talk through a couple pistol options as well. And that wasn't necessarily to cross into pistol optics, because that's a whole nother cat that we didn't really want to get into on that one. But because of the option to put like a pistol red dot in a offset configuration, especially next to a magnified optic or on top of a magnified optic, those were the ones that you were discussing for that purpose. So those are the two main questions that I got followed up after that episode. Cool.
Yeah. Hopefully that kind of clears some of that up. Definitely go check that stuff out. It was a lot of fun to make. And we had some time over the Christmas break where we got to get on the range and go do that. Hopefully we'll get to do that some more here coming up soon. We've got some other videos and content planned around that similar kind of like subject matter, the same general topic. So we'll be coming back to that periodically with that tactical series throughout the year. Today, though, we're going to work through a series of questions. I don't know how many we have. I think we've got 8 or 9 in the main episode, and then we're going to address a handful more in the Brutal American in the after hours. So we'll start off with one. We've got this cast up on the TV. This is kind of sweet to be able to do this
it's easy.
In the studio now. So this question actually came from one of our young guys here in the church that we know. He's actually in Ethan's parish, so we see him pretty regularly. But this was, I think, prompted by a portion of the Tucker Nick Fuentes interview, which was pretty recent. But their discussion on women and Nick's, I guess, opinion on a bunch of that, which was controversial. The question is, should young single men be looking for a quote unquote best friend in a spouse? Why not?
Did you watch this interview?
I watched pieces of it. I haven't seen the whole thing.
I saw some clips. I don't know that I saw this one, so I had to go and like pull the transcript to see what did he actually say and try to understand what did he mean. Mm-hmm. So the transcript says, because I hear this all the time, I think this is Nick talking. Because I hear this all the time, I hate this. Guys will say, I married my best friend. I think she's your wife. She's not your best friend because there's a difference. Tucker says, what's the difference? Nick says, I think that when you talk about your best friend, you're a peer, you're an equal. And I think that your best friendships are with other men. I think that your wife is ultimately subordinate to you. She's your helpmate. Ultimately, as the man in the marriage and as the father, you have the final say over the household. She can give advice. It's not to say I'm a freak, where you say, shut up, woman, of course. So that was kind of, I think, the point in the interview that he was talking about. And it helps, I think, put into context, what did he mean by your wife is not your best friend? And,
Yeah.
and then you can answer, do you agree or do you disagree?
Yeah. I'm going to go personally here. I think that it depends on what you mean by best friend. I think there's a category for you saying, yes, my wife is my best friend, especially after years of marriage. It's just the person that you're closest to on the planet. You know, you're sharing the burden with them directly. But in other ways, when you're talking about brotherhood, companionship, the thing that comes between that brotherly tie that even scriptures talk about, where it's like that a brother would dwell in unity with another brother, is a glorious thing. There's nothing like it. There's no love that surpasses a love of a brother for his friends, that he would lay down his life. You know, I'm paraphrasing here, but I think they're different categories. And so it's just important to define the categories.
Yeah, I think that's why that's helpful to understand what's he probably mean. And kind of where I go to initially is the standard trope of happy wife, happy life, the egalitarian tendencies that our country has when it comes to marriage and male-female relationships within the marriage. Like, functionally, what most people have is their wife ruling over them. That's generalization in the West, is that the wives are not submitting to their husbands, the husbands are submitting to their wives. And so if you're looking at the problems that our world has, and if you say like, oh, she's my better half, or she's my, basically if you're the Homer Simpson meme, and that's like your life, then like that's probably what this is also addressing, is that no, we've really messed this up across the board. It's a ubiquitous problem that husbands are not leading their wives. Husbands are not the head of the home. We've completely abandoned patriarchy, right? Even at where I went to school, Southern, they taught egalitarianism and they taught complementarianism. Complementarianism was as far right as you could get. There was nothing beyond that. They didn't even talk about patriarchy. And so like, that's one of your most conservative schools in the Southern Baptist Convention. That's where our pastors are at. That's where our churches are at. And that's the best case scenario with Christians.
Yeah.
And so I do think that there is this problem that should be addressed. But yeah, I think it is an interesting question. And then it also made me think about the four loves, right? The kind of historic, and C.S. Lewis talks about this, but the agape and the eros and the philia and the storge. And so you think about these different forms of love, and I think that they all belong in marriage with your wife. And there are some that if you have a best friend, you're not going to have eros,
Right.
But you could have agape, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that, like you said, there's something about the longevity of the relationship. Like my wife and I have been married for going on 12 years. And so like, that I don't have a guy friend that I've known for that long. Or if I do, it's like very few.
Yeah.
And so I do think there's something about the longevity of that relationship. But
proximity of it too. Like, you live in the same house, you see each other every
does
day.
anybody know you does anybody know you're better than your wife?
Right.
No, I would doubt that.
On that note, like we are constantly in a bit of a battle over whether or not like inside winter games are fun. Like do you want to play trivia,
board games,
or board games, or things like that? And I'm just like, it's just not my thing. But we were playing one over Thanksgiving, and basically it was like one of the characters is the killer or the murderer or whatever, and then everyone else has to try to figure out who it is, and everyone's trying to bluff the whole time. We handed out cards, and one of the rounds I was supposed to be the murderer, and before the game started, my wife knew that it was me. Just by like how I looked at the card.
The game took like 10 seconds.
And I was like, well, this is probably why I don't enjoy this very much. Because like we just know each other really, really well. And I think that there's something singular about that. At the same time, that doesn't discount the kind of friendship that you have with other guys. There are things that I share with you and Ben and, the other guys in the guild, like things like that are very different than what I would be constantly laying on my wife as a stressor in our relationship.
I think about the conversations we have as a session. There's a lot that my wife has no idea about, right? I don't put those burdens on her. It's not her business. It's probably would be, walking down the kind of gossipy. It's just not her business. She can't do anything about it, but it would burden her. It would weigh her down. And yeah, you walk through difficult things and you build these relationships with guys that it's going to be different, right?
Yeah.
It's a different mission. It's a different set of difficulties you're walking through. Like, you can think about guys in the trenches in like World War One. They're, guys saving your life, you're saving their lives. It's hard to find a tighter bond than that, or a more long lasting bond. And that's something that men will experience or can experience that you probably won't with women or your wife. And I think that's fine. But yeah, I mean, I think when the question is really getting at is, you're a single guy and you're looking for a wife. Does this person have to be my best friend? Like that's really what they're asking, right? Nick's a single guy. He's not married. He's not looking for a best friend, and on some level, like, yeah, like you barely know the person. Like hopefully when you're getting married and you date for a few months and get engaged and get married, like it doesn't take 10 years. You actually don't know them that well.
Right.
You might have guy best friends that you know far better and they know you far better at that point.
You're also like, one of you is a man and one of you is a woman. There's always going to be a certain level of mystery there. And it keeps that, like, your response is always probably like knee-jerk response to things is always going to be a little bit different than hers, when you might find that your knee-jerk response to your buddies is almost identical because you're all men. Yep. And so I think he actually makes a good point here. I mean, your wife is a subordinate. She is your helpmeet. She is following you. She's under your headship. She's under your leadership. She's under your protection. And it's just going to be a different relationship. At the same time, I think if we were looking at this from the perspective of a young man who's trying to find a wife, what you're looking for primarily, for sure, is not someone who's going to be your best friend. What you're looking for is all of those things that we just listed. And then with the eventual hopeful outcome that this person becomes one of your closest friends and knows you better than anyone, but it's going to be always a different relationship than you have with your buddies. The other thing is that I think one of the reasons men say that their wives are their best friends is because they don't have any friends.
I was going to make that point. It's so rare to have male best friends in your 30s, right?
Yeah.
Or after college. And so I do think one ditch to fall in would be I abandon or I neglect male friendships because I have a friend at home.
Right.
I have a friend who I sleep in the same bed with, and we see each other all the time. And so I don't need guy friends. And actually you do, right? And so if that was the tendency to say, my wife's my best friend, I don't need any other friends, that would probably be problematic. Like guys do need brothers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Hopefully that mostly answers that one. We'll move on to the next one. We had one of the guys in the Patreon. This is actually our 2025 first ever New Christendom Games champion.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Levi Whitley that asked this one. So shout out to Levi. Looking forward to the games coming up in 2026.
Are there any, you know what they're going to be yet?
Nope.
No.
Nope. Nobody gets to know
knows.
what they are yet because they haven't been completely decided. He asked if there were any book recommendations from us for a long range, like becoming more proficient in long range shooting specifically. You wrote a few down. This is not something that I've ever read on. I've watched lots of YouTube videos on stuff like this, but it's not something I've actually ever read a book on. So
I went most of my life being taught by like my dad and other men and how to do this. And it wasn't until the last couple of years that I found somebody recommended on the Warrior Poet. They have an app and they have a whole like network of shows and different stuff. One of the ones they have is Ryan Kleckner is some kind of sniper, SEAL, Delta, something. And he does a 2-season series on long range shooting. And it's from the very basics. So it's everything from like how to select a rifle and how to mount a scope and what are all the things people do wrong and how to make a dope card and how to use a rangefinder and how to do mills and how to do MOA and all these different things from the very basics. So I think that's super helpful for anybody, even if you're just like, I'm going to build a hunting rifle, but I want to be proficient with it. Really helpful. And then he's also got an orange book called like Long Range Shooting by Ryan Kleckner. It's basically all the stuff in the videos, but that's, I think, a really helpful, and even for guys that have been doing it, it's good reminders. It's good, like just good thing to have on the shelf for referencing. You buy a new gun and get a new scope. Like, what are the things I've forgotten since last time I did this? Mm-hmm. Let me do it right the first time.
Yeah. Very useful.
I didn't read the question, so I gave a rifle recommendation.
Yeah, nice. What's your rifle recommendation?
Rifle recommendation, just buy a Springfield Waypoint 2020. in 300 PRC, put a Night Forest 4 to 32 on it. That's all you need. And then the other thing I was going to say,
Speaking from experience,
this was Eric's recommendation to me. I did it. It's an amazing rifle. And then SIG, lots of people make them, but ballistic calculator rangefinder. So basically you range the target and you've got all the dope and all the calcs built in to the calculator, and it gives you exactly, what to dial. And you can pair with a, wind meter and all those kinds of things. But that I have found with that rifle, shooting just like regular over the counter Hornady ELDX out to 1,000 yards, that thing has been dead on.
I can speak from personal experience, having shot it, a couple times now. It is incredible. It makes you feel like you're a really good shooter when I actually am not like some expert shooter. So it's a sweet setup. All right. Question 3. Hey guys, I don't remember if it was Hardman or another podcast. Could have been one of the other NCP podcasts, but there was talk of men working 65 to 70 hour weeks and still having a really intentional, solid home life. How do we do that? I'm looking to establish some routines that are long overdue and was thinking about that episode. It's a really good question because it is a constant juggling act to try to figure out where to put your time and energy.
Yeah, and I don't think it's an exaggeration. I think you could go to anybody down here and count up their hours, and it would be in that range very, very easily.
I mean, if you are, we're involved in a bunch of the same stuff, but if you're talking about work at NCP, work for the church, doing things even for like service setups on Sundays, including guild stuff where we're going to meetings or reading, studying, it's a significant amount of time for sure. It's a large time commitment.
Yeah. And especially, I don't normally count this, but if you're counting the reading and all the assignments and things like that, that adds up as well.
It's significant.
But I think about this a lot. And I think it's a constant reevaluation of like, do I have enough white space in my calendar for these things, for my family? And every once in a while, I do this every so often is I say no to something that I've been doing. We, started this men's book group. Ben and I led it for a long time. And eventually got to the point where I said, and it's only twice a month, but I said, I need another night at home, twice a month. And just being able and willing to say no to things that are really good things that are great. It gives other people an opportunity to step in and lead some of those things that you can't do all of it. You're not expected to do all of it. So I'm constantly looking at, is it a good balance? Is it a good work-life balance? And if not, what needs to go?
Right.
And I guess how I evaluate that week by week, the 3 things is like, did I read my Bible every day this week? Did we do family worship every day this week? And did I work out, 4 or 5 days? And if the answer is no, usually that means something needs to change.
Something is taking up too much time or energy, is keeping you from getting enough sleep, whatever those things are, but I think that those 3 things are really, really good checks. We had a guy ask on Twitter the other day for a guy who's like, I think he even used the terminology, like he's wanting to become a warrior for Christ. Like, what are the things that he needs to do to start? And, Brian and Eric are pretty busy. I responded to it, and I think that these are the things that I try to focus on. And it's those 3 things. It's like, am I committed to daily spiritual disciplines of reading and prayer? And then also, am I doing family worship with my family? And then a big one for me has always been workout stuff. If I'm not doing that, I start getting sideways really quickly. Like if I'm really consistent with workouts, everything else goes better.
Yeah. I mean, you sleep better, right? You have more energy the next day. It's just, it's just one of those things where you think you neglect it. You're going to neglect it because they don't have time for it, but it impacts all the other aspects of your life.
One of the other downstream things of these disciplines is like, if you're really consistent with Bible reading and prayer, well, then you actually throughout the rest of the day, the week, the month, end up solving issues more quickly because you're steeped in the thing that solves human issues.
Yeah.
The same thing goes for family worship. If there are a bunch of issues in your home, family worship tends to address those just by default. If you have a really hard time with your diet, working out tends to make you more cognizant of it, and you are more strict with it. You have more discipline with it because none of these things are really in their own buckets. Really, these are all, some level of crossover, right?
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, we're talking about like discipline and self-control in any of these, right?
Right. And so practicing a skill here is going to translate to being better at that skill in all the other areas. But yeah, I think that's definitely one of them. The only other thing that I would add to this is scheduling. We are religious users of calendar stuff. I mean, calendar invites are getting sent nonstop. They're getting declined. They're getting suggested new times. They're getting approved. And our calendars are just, they're just constantly being diced up, and we're very intentionally dedicating time to different things.
Yeah. And even scheduling in things that may not be like a work meeting or a counseling meeting or something like that, but like scheduling in, hey, we're going to go skiing next week. I'm going to schedule that in on Monday, and nothing else is I'm not accepting anything else on that time. Like blocking out intentional time to do those things, I think is really important.
Yeah. When I say that Ethan's big on calendars, like we get Google Calendar invites to tennis after Sunday service on Sundays. Like,
personally,
it's for everything.
I just find that, well, one, we're in church. Right.
Sure.
Or like some of these, I'm in the basement second service or something. So I don't want to send a text during church. And so I put it on there. You're going to get the notification. Come to tennis. Don't come to tennis. I don't care. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an easy way to kind of keep things. It's an easy way to keep things evaluatable. I don't know if that's a word, but you know what I mean? Like in a series where you can look back at the previous week or month and go, okay, why do things feel off? And look at the calendar and go, all right, where do I need to move things around? Where do I need to add or take away?
You look at every evening, from 5 to 8, and there's a green block there. You're like, we need to say no to something next week.
Yeah. There you go.
The only other thing I'll add on that is for communication with your spouse. Google Calendar is a great way that you communicate without ever having to do anything. If you schedule well and she has access to your calendar shared with her, then she can, like, my wife doesn't ask me, do you need lunch today? Because she can look at my calendar and say, he has a lunch meeting. He doesn't need lunch, right? It's just like automatic communication, and it happens in 1,000 different ways. But that's a great way that you and your wife can be on the same page without doing any extra work.
It's extremely useful. Keeps you from, being the guy that doesn't communicate a lot of the time too, because I'll just forget. So having it on there is really useful for her. Next question is, how do you maintain motivation or discipline in the gym and with diet? Obviously, these two questions are extremely related, but what's kind of your go-to here?
I think you can't underestimate the benefit of having a workout partner. I think that's one of those things. I'm sure I've said it before, but like when you have somebody you're consistently working out with, I'm going to be at the gym at 5:30. Somebody else is relying on you to be there, and so they're not letting you down. You're not letting them down, and that ability to say, "I'm just going to hit the snooze and get another hour of sleep" is harder to do.
Yeah,
I think that's probably one of the secret sauces to it. But yeah,
I understand like a lot of you guys are not in the situation where you have access to that. You don't have a good buddy who's like super gung ho and is like, yeah, dude, let's drop 20 pounds and get stronger. Oftentimes you bring this up to your guy at work or, whatever, like your buddy. And he's like, yeah, cool. Good for you, dude. I'm not doing that. But if you're in that situation, I think one of the things that we do here, like we don't live in super close proximity anymore. You're a little bit further away. And so like you don't have a gym partner right now, but we do have a group of guys with a particular set of goals for a physical test in April that we're all working towards. And so we're doing the same workouts. I wrote a program up for that. We're all doing it. And so we also are constantly outside of those workout times are interacting about it.
Yeah.
And so we're going like, all right, how'd the leg day go? Did you do the workout this morning? You're going to do it this evening?
Yeah, that can be helpful.
It's super helpful to just have other guys doing the same thing, even if you're not doing it at the same time in the same place.
Even that artificial, like nobody's making us take that fitness test. Like we just decided, hey, let's do this. But having that artificial goal, you're like, hey, April's coming, and like one of two things is going to happen. Like, I'm going to do okay, or I'm going to embarrass myself in front of my friends. And so that is that kind of intrinsic motivation as well.
I think that in particular is one of the things that you can do, even if you don't have a group, like sign up for a race, sign up for a lifting meet, sign up for some kind of competition, or just go, hey, on July 4th, I'm going to run 17.76 miles, whatever. Like, figure out something, set some sort of goal, and then go, I'm going to do this because I said I was going to do it, even if no one else knows.
Yeah.
And having those kinds of like really concrete goals to work towards, it doesn't have to be a year out, but 2, 3, 4 months out is a really good range to kind of keep you motivated, keep you going. On this note as well, motivation and discipline are, for whatever reason, but from guys like Jocko or, Goggins or whoever, everyone has been pitting these against each other for a handful of years now. And it's kind of a soapbox of mine. It drives me insane that happens because, in my opinion, they are counterparts. One affects the other, but it's almost like the difference between jet fuel and diesel, right? Like, one thing is more reliable, it's going to exert power, and over the long run, it's going to win. But the other one is really, really effective in short bursts.
Motivation.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that you actually have to leverage motivation to create discipline.
Yeah. I mean, you even think you go back different times of your life where, like, I have a football team. We're doing workouts together. We're doing 2-a-days. We're doing something, like, you have a goal in mind, and that is motivating you, right? You want to do your job, and you want to, win the glory, and you want you want to win games. You have you have something driving you. But after that ends, like, you don't have these artificial, unless you create them, these goals that give you motivation like that.
Right. And I think, like, it's similar to, everyone always talks about the Michael Jordan example, where he would come up with ways to make himself angry and take things really personally. And he would create this thing in his head, like someone called him a name or someone like gave him some insult, and it actually did never happen.
You just read Facebook comments. You're like, now I'm angry.
Now I'm pissed. Let's go. And so whatever you have to do to try to figure that out, I think is worth doing. I think the people who are really disciplined are actually just really skilled at creating motivation. And I think that it's a skill set that you have to build. For some people, it's going to be listening to music. For some people, it's going to be, watching a 5-minute YouTube video that gets them riled up, or reading Facebook, whatever it is. You have to just figure out what moves the needle for you and then repeat the process until it becomes second nature.
Here's the other one. You give Ryan Poorman one of those scales that tells you everything about it.
That'll piss you off.
And then you hear about what his BMI is and what his body, how many pounds of muscle are on his frame.
How many more dozens of pounds of muscle he's carrying around than you.
And then you're like, oh, I better get to work.
You're like, I should probably leave this meeting and go home and eat some protein and then wake up really early and go lift really heavy, because that's unacceptable. Yeah. But it comes right back to the first point, is like, if you have other guys around you who are spurring you on to this, it's extremely useful. All right, I think that one pretty much covers that. Oh, you did have one note on here that I think is great. What media are you consuming for motivation is a really good question. We kind of touched on that a little bit, but my buddy Alex has this question, and it's the very first question that he ever asked a guy who seems to be struggling with motivation or discipline, because one of the first things that are used, like the first thing that's used as an excuse, is I don't have enough time. And he's like, what's your average phone usage time per day? Like, what's your screen time a day?
Yeah.
Like, go check it right now.
How many shows you watching this week? How many movies? Like, even that, right? Which your phone won't record. But if every evening you sit down and watch 90 minutes of a show or 3 episodes of The Office, like,
you could always trade that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just a question to keep in mind every time you come up with one of those excuses. Do a little self-evaluation and go, is what I just said actually true? Or do I just not really want to do this bad enough to cut these other things out? All right, question 5. Can you guys point me in the direction of a good classical education curriculum? This was pretty cool. This was a mother in Alaska. Where was she at? I can't remember what city it was. But anyways, her and her little boy, she's been listening to the podcast, so shout out to her. But she's looking for a good classical education curriculum.
There are a lot of good ones out there. And I know a lot of homeschool moms, and I most of the time when I meet people and they're like, oh, I homeschool, I ask them, what kind of curriculum do you use? What do you do for math or reading or science or whatever? And you get all kinds of different answers. But the thing that I point people to now, So Kevin Love, our headmaster, has put together every year he puts together a curriculum, and it is a turnkey operation where you can buy the books and you can do the schedule, and you can literally just follow along with what we're doing at whatever grade your kid's in. And so that all of that exists, and he's even recorded a lot of episodes for the St. Brendan's podcast. So you can find that. He talks through all the different things, even some of the philosophy behind it. So that's where I point people to right now, because it's what I'm most familiar with. And even being in the seat for Forms 3 and 4, as we're doing things and we go year to year on different curriculum, I'm constantly evaluating, can we find a better American history book? Can we find a better church history book? And we're improving them. So I really like the curriculum that we have. It changes and we rotate stuff in as we find better stuff. But overall, I think that's a really good baseline. Even if you didn't say, I don't care about Greek or Latin or, whatever, you can pick and choose and kind of a la carte if you want to. But I think there's a huge resource there with St. Brendan's podcast.
Awesome. Very useful. All right. Question number 6. Hey guys, had a question that I wanted to ask. Did either of you leave behind family, either yours or your wife's families, when you moved to Ogden? Yes. How did that play a part in your decision, and how should it play a part when deciding how to lead a young new family? My situation is I am newly married, trying to find good work and a strong Christian community for us to thrive in and be a part of building. Curious what wisdom y'all can offer into how to prioritize these factors, work, family, etc., when making a big life decision. Thanks, and Lord bless you, man. So
we both left family functionally. I moved around for a lot of years with the Air Force, and never, the closest I came to living with family was when my brother got stationed in Mississippi. He lived across the street for a while, and that was great. But I haven't lived with my family since I was 17. So, but we did make the decision. My folks are in Florida. We're going to go there, or we're going to come to Ogden.
Yeah. Our situation was one where we were completely surrounded by family, mine and my wife's. So we actually lived on the same piece of property as my grandparents on my mom's side. My grandparents on my dad's side lived a little over an hour away. My parents lived 15 minutes away. My wife's parents lived about 10 minutes away. I had 2 sisters, one of them married with kids who was very close to us. And then also my wife's brother lived within a 30-minute drive as well. So all of us basically lived in the same community, around the same county seat in East Texas. And we obviously left all of that family. It was not an easy decision to make. It was extremely difficult. Once we did make the commitment, it was really difficult to have all these conversations and let those people know that we were making the move. It's worked out great for us. And I think to the point where even all the people there now, even though it's bittersweet, they're very happy for us in the situation that we're in now. But yeah, it's extremely difficult. I think you have to kind of go through the list of questions and go, okay, I have young kids and they're young now, but they won't be young for very long. Where are they going to go to school? Do we have a solid church? Who are the prospects for them to marry sometime in the next decade and a half? And then kind of, in that hierarchy, church, school, education is going to be huge, and then spouses. And then also, like, if you're looking at Ogden and going, I want a community like that, I want a Christian borough that I can assist in building and lend my weight to, you have to be very sober in analyzing, can we do that here? Are the people even interested? Do they even know what that is?
Yeah.
Does their theology align with the values that I see as important? And then be really, really serious and honest, and not emotionalize the answers to that question.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the first question is like, do you have a church? He says, I'm looking to find good work and a strong Christian community. So that tells me you don't have a good church. So my assessment of that is like, if there isn't a good church, you have to move. That, like, it's non-negotiable. You, like, that's your primary duty, is to have a good church where you're gonna be fed, your wife is gonna be fed, your kids are gonna be fed, like that is a non-negotiable. You have to go somewhere that happens. You got to find work, right? If where you are, you have a good church and you have family, but you don't have a job, and if you can't provide for your family, you're worse than an unbeliever. Then you have to do something to get a job, and enough to provide for your family. And so I do think those two things really outweigh proximity to family. Now, I will say we have duties with the fifth commandment. We have to honor our father and our mother, and those might look different after you're married and you have your own family, but you still have a duty to care for your extended family and particularly your parents as they get older. I presume young man, newly married, like his parents are doing fine. Like they're not invalids yet. But I do think that conversation, you guys probably had it of, it would be ideal if we could all be here and we could all be together and there's great church and good work and that's like the ideal situation. And praise God, people actually experience that. But I think the best you can do, and maybe your minimum duty, would be, I'm going to go to a place that has a good church. I'm going to provide for my family, my wife, my kids, my primary responsibility. And when your parents get to that age where they need taken care of, you say, and I'm going to open up my home and I'm going to take care of you. And I'm not going to just ship you off to a nursing home. So I think if you're willing to do that, now they don't have to say yes. And if they're not willing to participate in that, then, you can't do anything about that. But I do think that is at least the minimum responsibility.
Yeah. It's a difficult decision for us. It was really difficult. We lived on family land. We had built a house. We loved the situation. If I could have picked up the piece of land in the home that we had built there and then just set it down here, I would do it in a heartbeat. But we made some significant sacrifices in that arena, materially, and then also being that close to our family to be here. And I don't regret it even a little bit.
No.
And I don't know. I talk to my dad on the phone numerous times a week. He knows exactly what's going on here. We discuss stuff all the time. They're super involved in our lives. It's just not the same level of proximity that we used to have. We can still go back and visit. And those things are difficult, but I do think that particularly in the case of my children, it is worth it.
I would also wonder in this situation, are your parents Christians? Are they part of that Christian community that you want to find? And if they are, where's the church? What church are they going to? And how closely are you aligned theologically on these different things? And if those things don't exist, I'm not saying it has to be perfect. Like there is no perfect church. There's things you're going to compromise on or, be okay with. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a good Christian community, then either your parents are not Christians or they certainly don't prioritize these things the way that you do. And so you can actually pick up the mantle, set the example for your family, the ones who come after you and the ones who came before you, and say, no, church is important. And we're going to go, find a church that there's not a lot of, they exist, right? They're all over the country. They don't all have huge platforms. They're not always talking into microphones, but they do exist. And so finding those and joining them, being a part of them and building there.
Yeah. I don't think we can over iterate the fact that the church here is the foundation for literally everything that we're doing. NCP doesn't exist. This podcast doesn't exist. All of the extracurricular stuff that we're doing doesn't exist. The Guild, the Titus II program, any of the extra things that we're doing, all of it is built on the foundation of Refuge Church. And if Refuge Church is not here, none of those other things exist.
No, you're right.
All right, moving on to number 7. What's up, Ethan and Tate? Thank you guys for the work. I'm a young man. He's 23 with a family, lives in Kentucky. He's about to start police academy. We just had a buddy go through this who's one of the guildsmen here at Refuge. For him, it's going to be 6 long months. And he's going to be living full-time Monday to Friday at the academy. Do you have any advice for being a godly husband and father in a time like this?
It's a really tough season.
Yeah.
Even our guy, he was there Monday to Friday, but he was sleeping at home. So even if he briefly saw his wife and kid, it's better than being gone for 5 days at a time.
This guy is my next door neighbor. I mean, I can almost reach out and touch his house from my doorstep. He lives right next to me. He just graduated the police academy here at Weber County. Really solid dude. And he was getting to come home at night, but basically the same curriculum. And he was leaving, I think, before 5:30 in the morning and getting home sometime around 7. He was commuting.
Because he had to commute like an hour.
I think the commute was, somewhere around 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And so it's just a long season. He still made it to guild meetings. He was still at stuff. He really didn't miss a lot, even over that period of time. It's really difficult.
But I think he did a really good job with this. Like I would check in with him periodically because he's in the guild and just have like check-in conversations about how's your marriage, how's your family, how's family worship, like just like how are things going. And I think he did a good job, but he was proactive. Like I don't think this is a unique experience for everybody. It's similar to 6-month deployment in the military or other law enforcement stuff. Like there's plenty of jobs that take you away, and I it's not ideal, but the fact that it's a season, there's an end. It's not if somebody was going to sign up for one of these contract jobs, they're like, yeah, I'm gone for 4 months and then I don't work for the rest of the year. I'm like, that's a horrible idea. Like you shouldn't do that. But it's a one-time thing. It's your kind of get through the door, pay your dues, and then, relatively normal schedule. You're home every night. So I do think it's incumbent on the father to think about what are the non-negotiables that we can't let slip, right? It's what is going to be the new normal. I don't know how old the kids are. It's a young family, but what's family worship look like? Like we're not going to just not do family worship for 6 months. So how's your wife going to do that? First thing in the morning, after dinner, whatever. Like,
can you FaceTime them in the evening and talk while they're eating dinner, and you sit down with your meal, wherever you are, and just, even if it's for 30 minutes, at least you're still interacting and interfacing and washing them with the water of the word. And I think trying to be creative with stuff like that would be really helpful.
I think being really explicit with like, a lot of this will fall on your wife, right? The things that you could do, she's going to have to figure out. And so delegating those things, checking in on her, right? Like weekly basis, like how are these things going? What are the struggles you're having? Who are the friends I have in the community? Who are the family I have? Who can I lean on to help us during this difficult time? Like that's why the community exists, for exactly this. And so those people should exist. Hopefully you have a strong community where people can come over and help watch the kids, help do the chores she can't do. Like, hopefully people can kind of cover those areas while you're gone. And then obviously like you're home for the weekend. So it's not like a deployment where you're just gone for 6 months or 9 months. Like, you get to come home. So at the end of the day, it's like, that's a season you can get through. It's going to be tough, but I do think, a good wife, strong helpmeet will be able to shoulder some of that extra load and help you guys get through it. And then, it'll go by really quick.
I think that's a really good point, to set very realistic expectations for your wife on what this is going to look like, the difficulty of it, the fact that it's just going to suck. It's going to be the way that it is, but it's not going to last that long. We're going to get through it. I've never done a deployment. I've never done something like this where I'm away for that long. But my previous work schedule when we were still in Texas was 7 days on, 7 days off, and then 7 days on nights, and then 7 days off. And that was what a month looked like. So those night shifts are just miserable. It's just the way it is. I would go in at 6 and get home around 7 a.m. the next morning. And so you're leaving your family overnight. You're not there. Your wife is going to sleep and you're not even at the house. Your kids are going to sleep. You're not at the house. And so we would do, it depends on budget and stuff like that. But I had a way that I could monitor our front door on my phone from work. And so I would get notifications if there was movement at the front door. I could at least look at it. I was 20 minutes away, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
And, just trying to be as proactive about things like that and provide a little bit more security is helpful.
Who's that first point of contact where if there is a problem,
right?
Who's the closest guy that you trust and rely on to show up, in the middle of the night if there was an issue,
and put together that plan and then make sure that your wife understands every bit of it.
I would also not, I don't know if his wife has a handgun or a rifle, but like I would not leave my wife for that long without the means to defend herself. And hopefully, you could give her the ability to become at least, somewhat proficient. And so like she's not left completely defenseless.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Question number 8. just listened to the recent podcast with Eric. Loved it. I understand you guys are all busy, but I would love to figure out how to build this where I'm at in South Jersey. I'm under care at a PCA here and would love to hear some recommended resources on leadership and finding high quality men to surround myself with. Yeah, this is like, I think this is one of the repeat questions that we get pretty much constantly is like, hey, love what I'm seeing in Ogden. I can't move to Ogden or I don't even prefer to move to Ogden, but I do want to build that where I'm at.
It's got to be better than South Jersey.
We could ask Nick. I bet he would know.
Guarantee he would agree. But I guess what do you want to build? You have a church, PCA church, which again, you get all kinds of PCA, right? So yeah. I assume it's a good enough church that you're staying there. But what do you think he wants to build?
Yeah, I would assume. I think particularly since we've kind of taken over this podcast, there's been a little bit more of that like group of guys doing things together vibe. All right, we're going to play golf. We're going to shoot. We're going to play tennis. We're just hanging out and doing stuff on a regular basis. And I think at the basis of questions like this and requests for information like this is like, I want to have good friends like that. And I think the first thing is like, you got to be a good friend.
Yeah. So the hospitality,
being energetic, and like we've talked about this before, but having fun is work. Like you want to be in good shape, work. You want to be able to do lots of stuff, extracurricular stuff after you get off work. It's going to take energy and work, planning, logistics, and oftentimes funds. So you're just constantly trying to figure out how you can put effort into things. I know that guys that I'm close to who are doing this in their communities, I would start with a really particular thing. So like you said, figure out exactly what it is that you want to build. Is it a lifting group? Is it a group that's going to do like more shooting and tactical stuff? Is it a group that's just going to go play golf? Figure it out.
Like a book group, like what we probably used to think of as like a Bible study.
Yeah.
Small group.
Are we going to start working through, works that are pertinent to the current Christian nationalism conversation or whatever it is?
What's the scope of this objective?
And what are we even trying to continue to build here? If like one of the groups might be just trying to figure out exactly what you want to do. Yep. In your particular context. So I think figuring out exactly what it is that you want to do and then being really, really specific about it at first. I think if you try to do everything right off the bat, you're doing a whole bunch of stuff at not full effort. And it would be better to just pick one thing and go full steam in that direction and get it solidified and built up and moving with some momentum before you move on.
I think one of the things is like, how do you vet these guys? Like assuming like you want to band of brothers, you want guys that you trust. How do you vet them? And so I would start in the church, but I would assume at a PCA church in New Jersey, a fraction of the congregation are guys that you would even pass the sniff test. I hope I'm wrong, but I would start by having them over for dinner, meeting their wives or children. Like where are they at? Are they where are they at on a lot of these issues? Like, are they patriarchal? Do they discipline their children? Are their children well behaved? Is the wife submissive? Like, because if some of these foundational things aren't there, it's not going to go anywhere. Like you're just going to spin your wheels, and the commitment's not going to be there, and they're not really the kind of guys. Or you decide, no, this is more like a discipleship thing, and then you rope in like an elder to have the authority and have basically the hierarchy that maybe you don't have as a churchman to try to disciple men to become the kind of men that you would actually want to be friends with and trust and rely on.
Yeah. I think that's really, really important. If you have a group of guys who are constantly, checking their phones to make sure that their wife hasn't tried to ask where they are yet. They're just like, they're not in control of their households. And so they're constantly like 1 foot out the door because they know they don't actually own their time. That's going to be a massive problem. Things are going to fall apart pretty quickly with that. The other thing is that it's just really easy to get a bunch of dudes to go, oh, that sounds cool. It's not really easy to get a bunch of dudes to actually show up and participate in stuff.
Yep.
So the execution is, that's where all of the real value is in whether or not you can get even if it's a small group of guys to actually execute, show up when things are scheduled and do the thing that you're expecting them to do.
And that would be my last maybe admonition here would be three 3 guys that are dedicated that show up every week or every month or whatever the schedule is better than a group of 30 where you get 50% participation.
Yep.
I would much rather know when we have a meeting for whatever the thing is, like I don't have to wonder, is Tate going to show up this week? Is, whoever, like that, I know they're going to be there without a doubt, unless somebody is in the hospital. And those are the kind of guys you want that have staying power, that are men of their word, that are committed to, the objective which you've scoped out. I'd much rather have 3 than 30 flaky.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. All right. Next question is, what are some good resources on how to go about purchasing real estate and or property in a Christian manner? I thought this was an interesting question.
I initially didn't think about it because I don't know what that means.
Right.
But then I went back to it and I thought I sent you. I was like, "Hey, what does this mean?" and then you didn't respond, so I'm like, "Okay, I'll figure out what I
must
think
have been in the middle
what
of
I think
something
it means." So I assume what we're talking about is residential for the most part, like residential real estate. Maybe he means commercial, but one would be being a good steward and not punching above your weight class, meaning like whatever you're going after, given the market and interest rates and everything else, like it would be better to buy a home that that you can afford rather than like think about the stress. If you're like, man, I think I could stretch to here, and then every month you're like barely making it or scraping by or in the red, and then you're having conflict with your wife, like it'd be much better to buy a house you're like can well afford rather than pushing your absolute boundaries.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. I think one of the things that I would say, like in that respect, is, and I've seen this, you guys just bought a home, the Garretts are looking right now, and you can just tell, it's not really been discussed explicitly, but you can just tell that one of the major factors when you guys are looking for homes, and I think we will be the same way, if and when we get to that point, is what is it going to be like to entertain our friends here?
Yeah.
And like, how does this place not only serve us, but also serve the rest of our people?
Yeah. You think about how many, I don't know if this is everywhere. I mean, I've lived in a lot of places, but in Utah, finding a home with a dining room is almost impossible. Like maybe 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 50 have.
Do you think it's just like a modern thing? Like people don't eat dinner together anymore?
Yeah. So like, why waste the square footage when I can have a bigger like entertainment room or whatever?
It's so sad.
But that would be one thing, is like you have to be able to have and think about this too, right? We're pronatal, big families. If you have 5 or 6 kids and you invite over another family, you need to seat 14 people. Mm-hmm. Like that's no small number. And so, you have to have a dining room table or figure out, we have the space where we can put it, and we do this all the time, right? We put
this is a common practice.
Put up a plastic table and the kids have their table and we have our table, and it's great, right? Mm-hmm. We can, it's great.
Or it's chaos.
But something like that. Like, what are the priorities? What's a home for? It's one of those things where you have to think through, like, can I envision my community being comfortable here? Can I be a good host? Can my wife be a good hostess in this home? So I think that's definitely a thing. Other things would be like, how far away from the church? What's the max distance? What, how much do I have to commute to work? Where are my friends, right? If you move to this beautiful, beautiful place out in the country and you're on 40 acres, but you're 45 minutes away, how often are my friends going to come over? Like it just makes all those, community and hospitality things more difficult. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think for us, 95% of our church is within 20 minutes of the building.
Yeah.
I think that's probably true. Anything outside of that, I found, and different places are different, but like I found that it starts to impede on that community. We have friends who live. I have a good friend who lives in Camas. He's an hour away. I see him on Sunday mornings, and that's just the reality of it. And they have a great spot down there, and it's amazing. But
yeah, their place is great.
It's harder. Like I guarantee he would tell you, community is harder. He hasn't gotten to know everybody as well as he would like to because of the distance.
Yeah.
So I do think that's a consideration. Other things like, we could go into vast detail about commercial real estate and things like that, but there's probably other people around here who would be better suited to talk about that. But so we've bought and sold houses over the years. We've used real estate agents. We've done it ourselves. This time, Kevin Love was our agent. And he is the first real estate agent that has ever been worth the 3% that he makes. And he was well worth it. And so having a Christian real estate agent who's shrewd can be a huge boon. Most of them are a complete waste of your time and money. And like, think about as a buyer, if you're paying less for the property than the real estate agent's making less money, like he's not negotiating for you, you know, like and it could be a couple $100, but if you have somebody that's for you, it makes a huge difference. And somebody who's really good in the trade, it actually does help.
Yeah. You can go check out Kevin. It's Key Love Realty. And he's doing a whole bunch of extra stuff right now. He's reaching out to a lot more people and trying to grow the business. So, you know, if you're looking in this area, in Weber County area around Ogden, Kevin Love is the guy to talk to.
Kevin's your guy. Yeah, absolutely. I think other things to think about is like, and real estate agents can tell you about this, but there's things like assumable loans, right? Maybe somebody had a mortgage on the home before 2019 and they had like a 2.5% interest rate. Can you assume that loan? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to bring a bunch of cash to the table, but that's something people don't necessarily think about or talk about. VA loans, 0 down, that's a huge opportunity for vets. Can you seller finance, right? Is the guy selling the house willing to seller finance? Will he give you a better interest rate than the bank will? You know, just things like that.
This is another place where this question actually interacts with some of the other questions, and having a Christian community is so important because when you have a real estate agent who works in the church and you know the guy, he's a Christian, he's a stand-up guy, he's really good at his job, it's a massive asset. It's also a massive asset to have multiple levels of financial wealth and generations in the church, because just last night we have different guys even just within the guild, younger guys looking to hopefully buy a house before he gets out of the military, older guys looking to sell his and then upgrade. And they're discussing whether or not they could, do a seller finance deal just in a regular conversation off the cuff.
Yeah.
And if you're not in a community that allows you to get into those situations, it's just you're not even living in the same world, really. It's a very different thing, and it's a huge asset to be able to have people who are genuinely for you, just in general, not even in these specific roles, maybe like a real estate agent, but just like friends.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if most people think about zoning considerations when they're buying a home. I don't know that I really did over the years, but if you want to have a productive household and you want to run a business out of your home, or you want to have animals, like thinking about those things before you pull the trigger just because the kitchen countertop's really nice, I think can be worth looking into. It doesn't take very long. Obviously, anybody who's bought a home, get an inspection, get a home inspector that's like worth his salt, that's actually going to not just pencil whip the whole thing. That can be really helpful. It can be a really good negotiating tool. People recommend visiting the property at different hours of the day, right? Maybe you go first thing in the morning and it's great. And then in the evening, that's where the trains run, or that's where the F-35's, base turn is, and they're all landing and you can't hear yourself think. Like just like different times of the day, you get to see the property and see like what are the pluses and minuses. I think he said property, real estate property. So I also took that as, what if I just want to buy land?
Yeah.
And I think that's a whole nother thing of, it can be a really good opportunity if you can buy the land, but the terms are going to be shorter. You're going to maybe bring more to the table. So you're not going to get a 30-year loan on a piece of property. So might have to have more upfront or a higher monthly payment than before you're ready to like pull the trigger on that. Or certainly if you're going to buy it and then hold it and then hopefully build one day, like it's just a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
Did you guys do a build loan?
Yes. So, we had 10 acres that was deeded to us by my grandparents. And then we used the land as collateral to build the loan, or for the build loan. And, it was a deal that we were able to put together and worked out really well for us providentially. We were one of those, like literally at the end of 2019.
Yeah. Before
things went nuts, we moved into our house that we had in Texas in February of 2020. So I think March is when COVID went nuts. And so we got in literally right before everything went crazy. And it ended up being a massive benefit for us. All right, next question. How do you guys handle watching movies, TV shows at night as parents? How does it change as kids get older? This is actually a pretty good question. I'm curious how you guys do this, because we'll talk to y'all and y'all will have watched like an entire season of some show, and me and my wife are like terrible at
not a whole season.
Your wife will be like, "Oh yeah, I watched that whole thing."
Yeah, but like right now we're on the X-Files.
Okay,
and we like just started season 3, and we've been watching the X-Files for a long time. And that one, those are harder because they're like an hour long. If you have like 30 minutes or like they're like 25 minutes, like you can squeeze one of those in. But when it's an hour, usually it's like I'll get through half of it and then we're going to bed or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think for the most part, it's very rare that we are watching something just me and my wife and not with everybody. I think far more often be a Saturday night or Friday night and my wife makes pizza and we're like, hey, let's watch a movie. And like the kids are there. And so we're trying to find something either old that I'm like familiar with. And I know it's like good for the kids and it has, enculturation that I want to give to them. And I'm not worried about it. We have like VHS tapes and DVDs and old West movies and John Wayne and stuff like that. So it's either that category or it's something I'm not familiar with. I mean, I would much rather watch something I haven't seen before, but we watch a lot of reruns. But if it's something new, usually I'll pull up my phone and I'll go to like age rating for whatever the movie is. And I will look because, PG-13 can mean a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah.
It used to be pretty safe. But now not anymore. And so I will look at like, why is it PG-13? Basically my kind of test is like, we don't do any sexuality. If there's violence, I'm generally fine with it. It would have to be pretty brutal or pretty gory for me to say like, no. And then language, I try to keep it a minimum. That's kind of where I look at it. And so I'll kind of look at why is it rated this? What are the different scenes? And if it's something you can skip through and you're like, it's coming, maybe it's fine. But for the most part, that's kind of my kind of test. Is this something we're going to watch together or not?
Yeah. Our kids are, I think, just temperamentally, like my son's 3, but my daughter's 6, and she is just really sensitive to stuff. So we tend to watch stuff that's pretty tame. Like they really like the cartoon Little Bear, which is something that I watched when I was growing up. And I remember watching it when I was really young. They like reruns. And I'll be honest, like we have an upstairs, and then we have a basement in our house. That's where the TV is. And the TV just honestly doesn't come on that often, especially here recently. The reading load, really for my wife and myself, has been heavy enough where usually in the evenings she's reading and I'm listening to a book or something like that as we're going to sleep. We've been trying to go to bed earlier. We might watch an episode or 2 of The Office, a couple nights a week, but that's about as far as we get. And typically what ends up happening is we are like glazed over and we don't even remember what happened in the, the last 20 minutes of the episode, or, it's like one of us is asleep or, something like that. So in all honesty, it's just slowed down a lot. We don't do this a whole lot.
And it's different in the summer and the winter when it's like dark outside at 5 p.m.
I was just about to say
it's harder to, you're not going to go outside and do something. But in the summertime, you might be outside till 8:30, 9 and with the whole family. And so I do think the seasonal, it's nice where it's not just one thing every day. Is like put the kids in bed and you turn on The Office and then you watch 6 episodes and then you go to, it's like that's not the way to do it. But yeah, we enjoy it as a family. And I do think there is value in like, especially everything's not gonna be perfect. Even in the greatest things, there's protagonists and villains and everything. And it's like, it's worth debriefing some of these things with the kids. There's so much content out there that is the kids are like horribly behaved. They're horrible to their parents. We
watched Home Alone the other day.
We tried to watch Home Alone.
It is terrible.
It's so bad. And the whole time we're like pausing and be like, That's super disrespectful. Kevin, what?
Yeah.
Like everybody's just like a complete jerk to each other.
And we watched it, and I was like, I like gritted my teeth through it. And we did several of those like in the middle of the show debriefs and like, hey, we're not ever allowed to talk like that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, my kids are like this. They just like, again, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Let's watch it again.
Yeah.
And, my daughter asked for Home Alone again the other day, and I was like, absolutely not. We're not. We're probably never watching that again.
No, that's where I'm at. But I think the older stuff is really safe. I like old movies. I like classic movies, and I enjoy them. So I try to find things I haven't seen. And then that way it's like kind of enjoyable for everybody.
My nephews love Redwall. So when we were in Texas to visit for Christmas, we were there for a little bit, and we stayed with my sister and her husband. They've got we got 6 kids. So what they do is they set up the Christmas tree, and the TV only comes out 4 shows. So it's a little like, it's like a 24-inch TV. But
it's like in school where they like roll it out on
exactly.
the cart and plug it in.
Yeah, it's like 4th grade, and you're like, today's Friday at the end of the school year, we're going to watch a movie. It's kind of like that. My brother-in-law, pulls the TV in there and plugs it in and puts it on the piano stool, and then they get super fired up for Redwall. So stuff like that.
Is Redwall a TV show?
Redwall is like a cartoon animated, but it's very like, it's been a long time since I've watched it, so hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, but as I remember it, it's like pretty subliminal Christian messaging. There's a lot of fighting. There's like mice and stuff that are fighting with the rats, and some are knights and some are peasants, and like almost medieval. But
my kids are reading the books. We got the whole series, and we've been giving to them like 5 at a time for holidays and stuff. But I didn't know there's a TV show.
Yeah, I think it's an animated TV show. I'm sorry for all of the super fanatic Redwall fans who are really frustrated with my discussion of what that actually is right now. It's been a long time since I've watched it, so I apologize. Cool. That's all of it. As far as the main questions go, anything you want to add to any of that?
No, just really appreciate you guys sending in questions. Really good questions. Really fun to address and talk about. So we keep doing that. We'll keep doing this once a quarter. We'll get another one going second quarter here, but keep sending them all the time, and we just keep a running list and go through them, and really appreciate the interaction.
If you have submitted a question and we didn't answer it in this episode, don't get discouraged. Some of those I logged away, and I think we're just going to do full episodes answering some of those. So, keep sending the questions. We really appreciate it. These have been fun.
Wasn't there one on like rifle build?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Evan's going to build a rifle in a couple months.
Evanescence.
So we're going to go through his whole rifle build and do that. To hopefully do a whole episode on that. It's like just one option for somebody building their first rifle.
Yeah. Yeah, should be fun. Awesome. All right, we're going to skip on over to the Brutal American Behind the Paywall. Go check that out. And we'll have, I think, 3 more questions that we're going to answer over there. So we'll see you there. Thanks for hanging out. As always, stay frosty, fight the good fight, act like men.